but at some point the math is the math.
I think we can do a better job using that information.
It reinforces my belief that I have the best constituents. Happy Friday, Austin, District 6. Welcome to episode 29 of the Clawback. We have been doing these shows for 6-7 months now. And I'm so glad that everyone is tuning in and getting all the information that we're trying to put out into the community through this video series, through this live show. We have a pretty stunning show for you today. We have Representative Vikki Goodwin, who overlaps a lot of District 6, kind of the western Travis County side, but has been doing some great work even during the pandemic. We have Shadia Igram and Zafar Choudhury from Muslim Space, which does Muslim services in District 6, and we'll talk about Ramadan. Eid Mubarak, everyone. It's the end of Ramadan. And for our musical guest, I don't even know how to preface it, Gina Chavez, y'all. Like, unbelievable guest. All the credit to Kate Messer, who is my musical director for the show, in addition to being a close friend and a city hall staffer and on the helping out on the campaign. She's been doing a great job pulling in some wonderful folks from our live music community. But let's go ahead and get started. I want to do a little bit of a review of what's happening in the pandemic. Let me go ahead and pull up some charts here. We had Dr. Escott, amongst a number of folks, give a presentation to the city council on Tuesday. And it was some pretty interesting data, I thought. When you can see in the charts here, the total cumulative cases keep going up because, of course, they would. But the new infections are kind of staying flat. And just because of, math, that means the percent increase is dropping. You can see on the new confirmed cases, there's a lot of kind of flat activity that's happening. Spiky stuff from day to day, but overall, new cases is running pretty flat. You can then get into hospitalizations. And this is such an important part. Oops, this is my background there. Such an important part of how, as a nation, as a city, as a community, we're going to get through this pandemic with as few deaths as possible. We have to keep hospitalizations within the capacity of our hospital system. And so even though you can see the new cases relatively flat, hospitalizations is ticking up. And in large part, that's because the amount of time people are spending in the hospital is causing it slowly to grow. New admissions, you can see this here. New admissions to the hospital is flat, but the total number of hospitalizations grows. And it's kind of a scary thing. You've probably heard in the news, in the beginning of this pandemic, we were tracking somewhat close in terms of split by race and ethnicity. We were tracking fairly close to what our community is, but unfortunately in the last month, that has diverged. There's a lot of theories about why the Hispanic population is having a greater rate of hospitalizations as a result of this pandemic. In the strongest version of that I've seen, that I've heard, is that when the governor reopened construction sites, that construction sites did not really step up and do everything they needed to do to protect their construction workers, which predominantly, kind of overwhelmingly, represents Hispanic population. So there's a lot of work that's going to be done on that. There's going to be, I think, a task force formed. There's a lot of activity happening around getting this crisis to not be disparate across any part of our community. We are all in this together, and there's nothing good about any one part of the city or one part of our community having to bear a bigger load. The thing that really kind of blew me away. So here's a chart of Travis County new cases. And each of these charts is going to break it down kind of cases per million. So it can get to normalize the charts between the urban counties. So here's Travis, fairly flat. Here's Bexar County, San Antonio, fairly flat. But check out Dallas. Look at that spike happening in early May. And then you get into El Paso County, and it is more of a direct upward trend getting into May. Harris County had a spike in April, and recovered, and it looks like it might be spiking again. And you get into Tarrant County, and it's just been an upward rise. I mean, it's just fascinating how each county, which reasonably speaking is working under the same orders from the governor, because of course the governor kind of took away local authority to do different orders, but they're having a very different outcome, a very different experience. To me, only highlights the fact that we need local independence and local authority so that we at each city and each county can independently respond to the different challenges that community is facing. And it's through a variety of factors in terms of industry and what's opening and political leadership and messaging and media and all the things. But ultimately, this is why local control and being able to set policy at the local level is so important, because you can see how different this data is across different counties. I'm going to come over to the general dashboard. This was updated last weekend. A lot of great information on the dashboard. Unfortunately, our death toll to the crisis keeps rising, as it do the number of cases. But you can see things broken down in terms of Travis County and the city of Austin. So as a reminder, this dashboard covers the part of District 6 that's in Williamson County. And you can see, you zoom in to the zip code part that see there's the county line. See the county line right there? It does dip over into the city of Austin part of Williamson County, but it doesn't include other parts of Williamson County. In fact, Williamson County's dashboard, if you go and pull that up, you can see the cases around Round Rock are much higher than they are in this chart. So if you live in the Williamson County part of District 6 like I do, your data appears on both. Your data appears in this dashboard. It also appears in the Williamson County dashboard. But you can see the hot spots really falling right down the center of town, north and south, but along that axis. But cases everywhere. And it's important that we stay vigilant and do everything that we can to keep protecting ourselves. I want to bring up my first guest. Get that off the screen. She represents the amazing folks of House District 47 and has a lot of overlap with Council District 6. Representative Vikki Goodwin. Hi, Vikki.
Hi, Jimmy. How are you?
I am doing, it's so funny. How do we even answer that question anymore? We all ask it. Sometimes I feel like, I don't know how I'm doing. I'm still here. So I guess that's good, right? I guess that's
right.
Good.
It's just habit, that just comes out whenever I greet somebody. But yeah, it is a tough question because we've all been sequestered in our homes for 2 months, and it's just craziness. That if there's a silver lining, one is that traffic on our streets has decreased significantly. Fewer people are out. And yet at the same time, I was in a Rotary meeting yesterday with the president of the Police Association Union, who talked about the increase in reckless driving, a lot of speeding, people driving 90 to 100 miles an hour on I-35, 183, MOPAC, and TxDOT has had this emphasis on ending the street. We haven't had a day since November 2007 when someone hasn't died on our highways here in Texas. And so TxDOT has this hashtag in the streak. You would think that with the decrease in people on the roads that there would be a day within the last 2 months where there was not a fatality on our Texas highways. But unfortunately, that's not the case.
That's, that's very sad for the folks that are still having that happen to them. But it is more proof that in order to really slow or end traffic fatalities and pedestrian fatalities, it's not just about people not driving. It is about infrastructure design. It is about pedestrian safe crosswalks. It is about a lot of different things, and ultimately a little bit of personal responsibility. But the flip side of that is, as you know, Representative, even if we wanted to just solve a problem with enforcement, we couldn't possibly tax the community enough to have enough officers patrolling enough streets to catch everybody doing something bad. We all have to hold each other accountable. But I want to know more about what you've been up to, Vikki. I mean, you do a lot of community engagement as a representative, and you're House district kind of, well, I say that it starts in District 6. I say that it starts in my corner and then goes south and gets part of South Austin. But talk about what you've been doing to stay engaged with the folks of House District 47.
Yeah, absolutely. So before COVID-19 hit, we had planned a number of events, town halls, and once a month we would have a morning coffee with constituents. Once a month we would have a Friday evening happy hour at a local establishment, and we had picked out some really neat brew pubs and neat bars and restaurants that are in the district. With COVID-19, we've had to shift that all online. And so we've been doing Zoom events and Facebook Live events. We had one just this morning with some people who work very closely with our most at-risk children. So we had Friends of the Children and Arrow, which is a foster care placement agency. So they came and talked about how they're doing, how they've had to pivot with COVID-19, what their needs are, and how the families and kids are doing.
That's great. I mean, I've been able to participate in a few of the town halls and the events that you put together, and thank you for the invites to those. What are you? I know that you've got a call with the governor at 2 to talk about the pandemic, I assume, because I think these are regular phone calls.
Right.
What are you seeing in terms of response at the state level? I could talk a lot about what's happening at the city level, but what are you seeing at the state level?
Well, first I have to say I really appreciate the work that the city and the county are doing, because you are on the ground, they're able to respond to people because you know what's going on right there in your community. The state has been, and I really like to refer to it as the governor, lieutenant governor, and speaker, because they are the ones making the decisions right now. As the legislator, we're certainly submitting correspondence to the governor that we get from our constituents, some ideas, suggestions, feedback, and concerns. We are constantly sending to the governor, but he ultimately makes the decisions. And as we know, he was slower to call a stay-at-home order than Travis County or the city of Austin. And so it took a lot of guts and courage for the city and the county to make that decision. The governor, I think, has at one moment relied on the cities and counties to make these important decisions, and then the next moment will come along and say, no, I override everything. So it's been a little bit frustrating, I know, for city leaders and county leadership. But at the state level, one of the biggest things that my office has been dealing with are people who have been trying to reach out for unemployment benefits so that they can put food on the table, so that they can pay their rent. And as you can imagine, with as many people who are unemployed right now, the calls and website inquiries to Texas Workforce Commission have just overwhelmed the agency. So they have done a lot of things to improve their response time, from increasing the number of phone lines, increasing staff, increasing web servers. They've really, and increasing their hours. So they basically are responding to people 7 days a week. And not 24 hours, but the only reason they aren't doing it 24 hours is simply because the servers need time to do their processing overnight. But I believe they're open 7 to 7. So that's probably the biggest issue, is just helping people get money they need to stay in their homes and feed their families.
Well, thank you for continuing to push on the Workforce Commission and as they scale up their operations. None of the systems that government has are built to really handle this thing that we're in. And I think for some period of time we can kind of roll with the punches, but then at some point I think there are fair expectations on, as you put it, the governor, the lieutenant governor, and Tweedledee and Tweedledum to figure out what the right what we should fairly be asking and expecting of them. And I'm hopeful that the governor will remember how this crisis began, which was Texas is a big, diverse state, and our cities and counties all have very different needs, and we got to trust local decision making. If I remember correctly, his quote was, "That's how we do it in Texas." And it lasted all about like 48 hours. And then suddenly it wasn't how we do it in Texas. Suddenly it was governor has sole authority, which is what he wrote into his orders. But I know you're such a great advocate for not just for House District 47, but for this whole region, and I'm so appreciative to have you as a partner in all of the work that we're trying to get done. And we'll have you back on the show to talk about some of the non-COVID policy work that you and I have been working on. And I know you'll be on the ballot this November, as will I. And good luck, Representative Goodwin. We need to keep you in the House.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
And good luck on your call with the governor at 2.
Okay. Take care.
Thanks, Vikki. Vikki has been a really great partner for District 6, for the city of Austin, for this region, for the other municipalities that are in House District 47, Lakeway, for example. She's been a really strong advocate and has been able to really kind of bridge the gap and not have to make everything about partisanship, but really make things about good and equitable policy. And she's been a great partner in that effort. Now, it's the midpoint of the show, and this is the time when we bring on our musical guest. And I don't have enough I can say about Gina Chavez. She's not just an amazing artist, but she's a representative of music and for this city. And she travels the world representing Austin and creating some pretty spectacular music. So I'm so excited to have Gina Chavez on the show. Hi, Gina.
Hey, how are you?
I am fine. How are you doing? How is your family? How are you holding up?
Good. Yeah, I think like everybody, there's ups and downs, there's like, I'm home more now than I have ever been, because normally I was on the road about every week, like Wednesday through Sunday. So it's actually been really great to be home with my wife. We have a new house and we're loving it. And it's a wonderful place to be in quarantine. And at the same time, I think we're all kind of dealing with, being in each other's space all the time and what that feels like. And, I feel like there's a lot of weird stressors that are happening right now. But the really exciting news is I actually have a new album coming out, which was supposed to be a full-length. It was supposed to be a full-length album, but then coronavirus, and so we actually turned it into an EP, and it's an all Spanish language EP that comes out on Wednesday. So very excited to be getting some new music in the world, and especially just messages of hope, messages of empowerment that I feel like everybody needs right now. That's
so exciting.
Yeah.
I can only imagine how difficult it has been. You're such a strong live performer. You do a lot of live performances. What has it been like during this time to adapt and shift your performances?
Sure. So what's funny is I actually went live. I came back from tour on March 8th. And so that was the last time I toured. And that was even kind of when it was starting to be like, is this what's happening? And so we weren't touching people at the merch table, and we were kind of like laughing about it, but we didn't know how to treat it. And I got home, and I have been home ever since. So I started live streaming, I think on March 14th, and did that for about 21 days straight. And I was exhausted at the end of it. It got to a point where it was great to reconnect with fans. Like the first few weeks were amazing, and just being able to see old friends and stuff. But I think for me as a live performer, like you said, Jimmy, I miss the audience interaction. I'm a true extrovert, and I need the energy of other people. And so live streaming is literally performing to my own face, and it's kind of exhausting to have to be like, I have to be the energy, and my wife has been great, and she'll be behind the scenes, and she'll be like dancing around and trying to like kind of be the energy that's not there, but it's tough. It's very tough.
That is at least one thing that I can appreciate. Being on as a council member, we have all of our council meetings and everything that are broadcast on TV. And so, I'm in my little home studio thing with my green screen and the lights. And yesterday, for example, we were in our council meeting, I think for 12 hours straight. It's like just on, it is, I'm a little bit of an extrovert. I don't know if someone with a live show could not be an extrovert. So I definitely understand that piece of it. You haven't just live streamed on your own. You participated in a live stream with Visit Austin, right?
Mm-hmm. I've been doing a fair amount of, live streams. We even did one for, there's a place called the Wharton Center, and I'm actually supposed to tour there in 2021. We'll keep our fingers crossed that our country can get it together. But in the meantime, it was actually kind of a cool opportunity because a lot of these places, and even Visit Austin, everybody needs content right now. And so it's kind of a cool thing to be a musician and be able to say, hey, I can provide you a free show. Doesn't really cost any money except for me having to get equipment and stuff. But, I get to be in front of new fans and y'all get to add some content to your page and, have a good time. And so it actually ends up being kind of a cool thing. So we're doing somewhat of a virtual tour with the new album, which is kind of exciting. And it's an opportunity that otherwise would be hard to go live on other people's platforms because there is a lot of content happening normally. So anyways, it's, I feel like it's one of those examples of people just being really, just the way humans, we make something out of a really tough situation and we learn how to connect with each other even when it's really hard. And so I do think as much as there is a lot of negative news and things that could be a lot better, and we need to call our leaders to those things, we're doing good. We're finding ways to connect, and that's really inspiring.
That's wonderful, Gina. I gotta say, I am just having that backdrop behind you. I feel like I'm having a religious experience because you sit and it's just like halo, 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 spinning out from there.
It's that and I'm like, this is a little weird.
It's beautiful. It's a beautiful thing. Yeah. So I am so excited that you are willing to share some of your music on the show today. So I'm excited to hear what you have to play.
Sure. And I do want to, since you had me on your show, Jimmy, I gotta do the shameless plug. So here's my very high-tech way of showing you my new album cover. Oh, can you see it?
Yes.
Okay.
Gorgeous.
So it's called La Que Manda. It's all in Spanish. And this is actually the first single we released. It's called Ella, which means she in Spanish. And this is a song that is very much, I know y'all were talking earlier about the Latino community being hit really hard by COVID. I personally it's been really on my heart that, survivors of domestic abuse, this is an awful time. I can't imagine what it's like to be cooped up in a place that's supposed to be home and is not a safe space. I can't imagine. And so what we're doing is with this song, which is already out in the world, it's called Ella, we're actually creating a music video with dancers from all over the world who are lending their talents to kind of tell the story of what it's like to be a survivor right now. And so we've got a director working on it and videos from dancers from all over the world. And so even though if you don't understand the lyrics of this song, I want you to imagine that this is a song about lucha. This is a song about fight. This is a song about, especially for women who know what it's like to be made small, to have to be quiet, and kind of saying no more and saying, we're not going to give in. We are survivors.
Thank you, Gina.
Sus manos están atadas, su voz no puede más, no sabe a dónde ir, ni qué hacer. Su cuerpo no para de velar al ritmo de esta realidad, no sabe a dónde ir, ni qué hacer. Le quitaron las ganas de hablar, el silencio tratan de comprar, a la fuerza ellos quieren callar. En contra de esto y más, nunca se rindió, nunca se rindió. En la calle corremos peligro, en la casa nos matan también. Y si armamos valor para decirlo, hasta la iglesia se calla también. Pero no tenemos tiempo que perder. Fueron muchas las que lucharon ayer, por las que están y las que vendrán. No nos rendimos, ella persistió. No nos rendimos, nunca se rindió. No nos rendimos, ella persistió. No nos rendimos, nunca se rindió. No nos rendimos, ella Nunca seré yo, no nos rendimos, ella persistía. Nunca seré yo, no nos rendimos.
Yay! Oh, that was beautiful.
Thank you.
That was beautiful. Thank you so much, Gina, for sharing your music with us and for coming on to my show today. Just for folks who are watching, we have at least a few folks who are fans. They're commenting. They love you. Where can people get your music? Where should they go to get it?
You know, honestly, I'm everywhere. So I always encourage people wherever they like to get music, you know, to get that music. We actually have a cool promotion going on where I've got a digital download of the album and a bandana. I don't know if you can see that, but this is a bandana that was designed by a local artist named Daphne Sabine. So anyway, we've got kind of a promo going on. If you go to my website, you can find out all about it, ginachavez.com. Otherwise, you know, I encourage you to get the music where you listen to music. I want you to hear it. If you want to get a CD, you can get that from me. Otherwise, it will be on all platforms on Wednesday. It's called La Quemanta, and if you follow me on Spotify, you'll get it. You'll get it first. But y'all, thank you so much for having me on. And I also want to give a shout out to my workplace. So I work, my day job is I work for the Center for Public Policy Priorities. I'm not sure if you're familiar with CPPP, but I
definitely am.
Yeah. So we do work for all Texans on, you know, the local, state, and federal levels. And, you know, I will say this, having a steady income right now when you know, all my tour dates got cut out from under me. I've been there for 10 years and I've never been more thankful to have steady work as well as the opportunity to still make music. So yeah, so y'all follow CPPP. We've got a lot of great live streams ourselves about what's going on and how we can help out our fellow Texans. So
awesome. Thank you so much, Gina. And I would be remiss if I didn't send you off with a little bit of music because I believe you have a birthday coming up.
Oh, I do.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. All right, that's enough of me. Thank you so much, Gina. Thanks for sharing your music. Say what?
You got a good voice. Thank y'all.
Well, let's do it. Let's do a duet. All right. Thanks so much, Gina. That was awesome. That was really amazing. She does such great work for the community. I didn't even know that she worked for the CPPP. So in addition to sharing her music talent with the world, she also works on important policies to help Austinites right here at home. That's pretty awesome. Our last guests for the show today. It is the end of a special time of year for the Muslim community, and it has been a very strange one, having to do it during a pandemic. So I want to bring Zafar Choudhury and Shadia Igram. Thank you all so much for joining the show. It's great to have you on.
Thank you for having us, Jimmy.
Thank you.
You all are both involved with Muslim Space, which I believe meets right in District 6, right? It meets up here in far northwest Austin.
Yeah, we meet everywhere, but we do hold our weekly Friday prayer service at the Church of the Savior right off of 620. You're right.
I love that. This is, you know, I just have to, I think it's the law. I have to love stuff that's happening in District 6. But you all have done some really great work bringing a different perspective to the Muslim community and allowing folks to kind of be who they are in that space, which I think is really great work. Talk a little bit about what Ramadan has been like, and Eid Mubarak to both of you. You know, we are at the end of a special time, but it has been a strange one.
It has. So I'll just share a little bit about how we have moved what we had planned on doing for Ramadan in person to virtual platforms. And, you know, we were really grateful that we kind of had a little bit of time to prepare. We had stopped holding our in-person Friday prayers. Like I think March 13th was our last in-person. Actually, no, it was the week before, March 7th. March 13th is when we started hosting the sermons online. And so that had continued. And even, you know, getting in closer to Ramadan, it was like, are we going to be able to do anything? And as it came very apparent that we were not going to be able to do anything live, we said, okay, what are we going to do online? So we put out like a nightly recitation, like from the Holy Quran. So every night you can tune in and have 30 minutes of recitation from various people from around the world. So that was a really cool thing that we were able to do, because you can't do that live. You can't bring in people from Cairo and from St. Louis and from Tempe, Arizona. Then we also moved some of our children's programming online to Zoom. So, parents can put their kids in front of the computer and we would do a craft together. We would read stories together. And oh my God, there was just so much that we've done that as we're nearing the end of the month, I'm having like a brain fog trying to look back and go, oh my gosh, when did we start? When did we do all this stuff? But we primarily focused very much virtually, where Zafar, and I'm going to toss this over to him. This guy was like on the streets, taking care of people. So Zafar, why don't you share with what you were doing?
Sure. So Jimmy, when the lockdown went into effect in March, a lot of the teenagers in our community came forward and said, look, the adults are making a lot of the decisions about the economy, about school shutdown, about canceling graduation ceremonies and all this stuff. We want to do something. We want to feel important. We want to feel meaningful. We want to be impactful to our society, to our communities. So they got together. The first thing that they did was make masks, thousands and thousands of masks, over 3,500 masks, hand-stitched, machine-woven masks that they distributed to area hospitals, St. David, Seton, Scott and White, various clinics, Veterans Administration, law enforcement, grocery stores, fast food restaurants, homeless. And after the mask project, which lasted a couple of months, was completed, they decided to collect food items, especially for the rural community, because a lot of the Meals for Wheels programs had dried up. So they hit Maynard, Elgin, Bastrop, McDade, Hutto, Pflugerville, Giddings, Buda, Kyle, San Marcos, a lot of the rural communities, and they started collecting food every weekend and distributing them, dropping them off at neighborhoods, elderly, single moms, asylum seekers, things like that. And then the mosques got onto it. Austin has about 13 local area mosques. One of them, primarily the North Austin Muslim Community Center, jumped on the bandwagon very quickly. It's the largest mosque in Austin. And they started doing this weekend program where on Saturdays, they would deliver meals to families. And on Sundays, they would have a drive-through program where they would have between 300 to 400 vehicles come by every Sunday morning and pick up boxes of groceries and essential food items, milk, eggs, meat, fresh vegetables, fruits, and all in all, it's been an incredible experience. A lot of the Muslim restaurants in Austin have opened their doors and told them during the month of Ramadan, you can come in and get whatever food you want. Our doors are open. A lot of these businesses, their revenue has fallen about 70, 80% because there's no dine-ins, there's no catering, but they still open their doors. And places like Barbecue Inn, Zavia Grill, Shahi Cafe, all of these restaurants, they said, come between this time, and anyone who walks in can get a free box of food, no questions asked, no judgment, just come and take a meal from us. And that was really incredible to see. In the past few weeks, we've seen them give out at least 5,000 meals to anyone that comes to their doorstep. And for Muslim businesses and Muslim volunteers to do that, to come forward like this, is just remarkable for me to see. I've never seen anything like this, and I've lived in Austin for 30 years. I've never seen, I saw the community come together during Hurricane Rita, Hurricane Katrina, and a few other disasters, but I've never seen Muslims, non-Muslims, businesses of all kinds come together in this fashion before. It's unprecedented.
It is a very strange and amazing thing to be experiencing as a community, and through the live show over the last few weeks, I've been able to have on a few different groups who are doing similar work, who are pulling their parts of the community together, who are making masks, who are distributing food, who are trying to support local businesses. It is difficult to talk about silver linings while you're in the middle of it, because the linings are still out there. We're in the middle of the clouds. But they're there, and I think that it shows the real power and strength of our community and the work that you all have done, and to have the kids be leading on it is really something special. It's it's tough to think about what the future might hold. But if these are the folks, if those kids are going to be the ones in charge of it, makes me feel a little bit better.
Yeah, there's hope. And just to refer back to the work that Muslim Space has done, Muslim Space is an organization that's been around for a few years, but the way that they have stepped up, their volunteers, their members donating. We had created an outreach fund where we needed money for meals to make hot meals. We have a team that makes hot meals, hot, fresh South Asian cuisine, Mediterranean cuisine every Saturday and deliver it to doorsteps. The folks at Muslim Space, a lot of them donated generously. The money that the Muslim community has generated from the mosques, if all the mosques, their funds are combined together, it's easily over $50,000 that the community has come together, and it's all in a matter of weeks. I think what the silver lining here is that when push comes to shove, we put aside all our ethnic, religious, ideological differences, and we come together as one race, as a human race. That's one of the lessons that I have learned from this COVID disaster, this pandemic, is that people have put aside any and all differences to come together to make things work.
It is definitely something to be hopeful for. And I'm so thankful for you all for coming onto the show and sharing the story of Muslim Space and the way you all have been coming together during this crisis to help our community. Y'all have a few fans. They're commenting on the show. I'm going to bring up a few of these comments. Definitely you all have some fans in the community. Thank you all so much for coming onto the show and talking a little bit about Muslim Space and for all the community leadership you all provide to folks in my district in far northwest Austin and across the whole city. Thank you, Shadia and Zafar.
Thanks.
Thank you, Jimmy. Thanks for having us on.
Pull those down. Wow, what an amazing show today. Thank you to Representative Goodwin. Thank you to Gina Chavez. Thank you to Shadia and Zafar for joining us today. There is a lot of good stuff that's happening. There is good stuff happening in this community. There are people who are innovating. They are being creative. They're trying to figure out new ways to survive. But we aren't out of it yet. And I keep starting the show talking about the data because I think it's important to know that we don't know where this crisis is headed next. Austin and Travis County and parts of Williamson County have done a really great job staying at home, wearing masks, protecting folks. I hear stories, it's easy to find the stories online where that's not happening, but I hear from District 6 constituents how most everyone is really trying to do the right thing and wearing their masks when they're going to HEB and trying to stay home unless you're doing something essential. And we have to stick with this. At the same time, we continue to roll out new programs at the city. Item 23, the Anchor Fund, the Clear Fund, the Child Care Fund. Hopefully those will hit the streets soon, and we'll be able to get more financial support to our local businesses who are trying to do their best to survive through this crisis. And for all of the folks in this community who are having a hard time paying their rent, more programs coming for that. Rental assistance work, we're going to be talking about that at some special called meetings for the council next week. So be on the lookout for those resources. You can find all of the recovery resources at atxrecovers.com. That's the city website where we will continue to be tracking all of the work that we're trying to do. And of course, I am on the ballot this year. We still are going to have election in November, and we've done so much amazing stuff for Northwest Austin and for the city as a whole in my first term on the council. If you feel so inclined to support this work, you can make donations on my website, jimmyflanagan.com/donate. And that helps us both produce the show and to do more outreach and help us be prepared for an election in November, which I think is going to be one of the most intense and crazy and bizarre elections in our lifetimes, or maybe in anybody's lifetime. It's going to be a wild time. Thanks, everybody. Thanks to all my guests for being on the show. Thanks to you all for watching and for commenting. This is a crazy time, and as I end every show, let's take care of each other. Let's take care of our community, and if you can, stay home.